Welcome to the February monthly market report. You know, it's the second month of 2025. Hard to believe January's done, and we are sort of off to the races with this year. And before we get started today, I just want to say, you know, this first month of the year saw a lot of change and seems like a lot going on. Wildfires out in LA, and our hearts go out to them and all of the tragedy in DC and the plane crash, and our hearts go out to everybody there. And listen, this is a time, I was talking to an agent over the weekend. This is a time where we can step up and help wherever we can. There's been so many great stories of agents and the community of real estate stepping up during this time, and it's certainly an opportunity and a chance we have to help those that are hurting. I think as we think about the year going ahead, helping people, helping buyers, helping sellers navigate this market is going to be critically important. And I'm going to talk about that for the next few minutes. We're going to talk about probably one of the opportunities for buyers right now that helps them understand their opportunity to buy. We're going to talk about one of the biggest things that sellers have to leverage. That's equity. Give you an update there. And then I'm going to kind of wrap up with sort of an optimistic look on a survey that was done about what Americans are saying, not only about the value and the benefit of real estate, but those that expect to transact this year. So all of that ahead in the monthly market report. You know, take all of this information and use it to create opportunity in your market, you know, whether it's a text or an email or something to engage someone on what's happening in this market. But let's start right here with Ramsey Solutions said this: even though interest rates are still high, that's true, it's a great time to buy a house. The interest rates have priced some buyers out of the markets, which means you could face less competition when you make offers. Plus, if interest rates do eventually go down significantly, you can always refinance to get the lower rate. Obviously, they're talking about mortgage rates there. And, you know, that's the benefit of buying a home, right? Is you buy at the price today, mortgage rates still high, but as they come down at some point in the future, and I think we can say that confidently, it's just we just don't know when, then you can refinance, right? And you can lower your payment. And that's the beautiful thing about home ownership, among so many other things. But that's the truth. And I think this creates this opportunity right now where we sit in February, this sort of buy opportunity before the spring market. And there's 3 points here. Higher mortgage rates right now in winter weather in a lot of the country equals less competition, you know, in a number of different ways. People that are like, hey, we're not going to do it right now, or we can't afford to do it right now. 2, fear and uncertainty in the market equal opportunity always, right? And there's been so much volatility and wondering how things are going to affect real estate, the new administration and tariffs and all the things that we hear that just create fear. That's all they do. That is an indicator towards there will be opportunity, right? Because everybody that is afraid does the same thing, and that's nothing. We know that. Sellers who need to sell give you more negotiating power as a buyer. That's certainly true. And so I think it points to this opportunity to consider to buy right now. But, you know, I think if we're talking to people about it, it can seem like we're trying to convince them to do something. But let me show you the data behind it. But I always think about this quote from Warren Buffett. He said this: be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. You know, certainly over the last several years in real estate, you've seen so many people come in, but right now people are maybe hesitant, which again signals an opportunity to buy. I think as we start to look at the information and the data that's coming out, I want to point to a couple of different things that I think I would use. We released a video on this, Keeping Current Matters. Got a lot of views in the first couple of days. You can go look at KCM on Instagram and see that video. But this is it right here. It's a NAR study that says buying in the offseason may feel less rushed. And what that comes from is in January, February, and March, the median days on market of homes purchased in those months has been higher than just about the rest of the year, right? Things are sort of moving faster the rest of the year. So likely whatever's on the market right now has been sitting on the market. Maybe you're listening and you've got a listing right now. You're like, yeah, I've got one of those that's sitting on the market and I'm just ready for some activity, somebody to make an offer to get somewhere with this. But also, I think we want to look at price. Lisa Sturdivant with Bright MLS said this: during any given year, home prices tend to be at their lowest point of the year in January or February. prices typically are lower during the winter because demand is lower. We just talked about that. And as a result, if you're looking to buy a home this year, it may make sense to do your home shopping in January or February when you may be able to get a better price. I'm here to tell you now is the time, if you're thinking about buying, to step into the market. And again, we talked about days on market, but take a look at this from NAR. This is the median sales price of existing homes January through December of last year. And oh, by the way, what shows up again? The lowest median sales price of the year in January, February, and March. So I think this is something that buyers should consider, and you can take all of this and apply it to your market and say, okay, here are the average days on market right now. Here's the median sales price, each month. This is true in our market or is different in our market, whatever the case is, and really put out content right now for those that are thinking about buying, because we know over the last several years, and even in the last year, a lot of buyers abandon their search for a number of different reasons. Primary reason, rising cost of buying a home. Many people said, we just can't afford it right now. Lisa Sturdivant in that same report said between 2010 and 2024, according to home price data across the Bright MLS service area, home prices are an average of 15% lower in January and February than they are during the month of peak home prices. In most years, that highest is June. Go back to that real quick. And June, yes, the peak there of median sales price. So all of that right there points to an opportunity in buying a home to say, if you're thinking about it, the time to get started is now, to get pre-qualified, to start looking and saying, hey, what does that look like for you right now? Because there is opportunity for those that are looking to buy a home. But if you go out and look at NAR's profile of buyers and sellers, they also said 51% of buyers are also sellers. And that number is actually, for 2024, was a little bit lower. It sort of runs about 70%. And I think it maybe has to do with the influx of new first-time home buyers that are coming into the market. But needless to say, most people that are buying need to sell their other homes. So what's the number one thing that sellers have to leverage? I mentioned that as we started out. It's equity. According to ICE, which ICE, if you don't know them, they're a technology company in the mortgage business that all the loan applications flow through. So they see purchase price, they see loan amount, they see all of that. According to ICE, the average homeowner with a mortgage now has $319,000 of equity in their home, of which $207,000 is what they call tappable equity. Now, tappable equity, we've covered it here before, but I'll remind anybody just listening, it is the amount that the lender will let you borrow out of your, out of your equity. You can't take it all. You can't go up to 100%, but $207,000, a lot of money there that's tappable. Well, if you go out and sell your home, obviously you can use all of it unless you hold some back for some reason. The number one thing that any seller in this market has to leverage is the equity in their home. Matter of fact, NAR and CoreLogic said national homeowner equity remains at near historical peak of $311,000. Over the past decade, listen to this, the typical homeowner has accumulated $201,000 in wealth solely from price appreciation. Oh, by the way, the number one way people build wealth in this country is through home ownership. A typical homeowner's accumulated $147,000 housing wealth in the last 5 years. I mean, think about these numbers. They're shocking. They're challenging too. I'm not trying to skip over that, right? The quick rise in price has given a lot of people equity and this ability to leverage that equity if they sell their home, but it's a result of rising prices. And the last point there, for the third quarter in 2024, which is the most recent information, the average U.S. homeowner gained approximately $5,700 in equity during the past year. So even a slower year in real estate, prices going up, equity, rising in homes. And a lot of this, is due to the rise in prices, but also is kind of a combo effect that people are staying in their homes longer. Forever, if you grew up in the business, people stayed in their home or sold their home about every 5 or 6 years. And that was true up until about 2008. And if you go post 2008 through sort of the last decade, you see right at about 10 years, 10 years, 9.3, I think is the average, which is interesting, right? Even if you think about engaging those that you're working with or your database even on this of almost a poll of how long have you been in your home, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see that start to shift to a higher number. People certainly are staying in their homes longer these days than what they historically used to do. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that. People are aging in place and staying in homes a lot longer. Certainly those that over the last several years have had a mortgage rate that they want to hang on to are staying in homes longer. You see it dip down in 2001 where, sort of the peak of the market, everybody went in and said, we're going to buy right now. But this combo effect of rising prices, people staying in their homes longer, has equaled a massive amount of equity. If you go back and look at FHFA, these are the maps for the change in home price over the last 5 years. And the national average as of the third quarter of last year, 2024, the most recent information, the national average 57.4%. You see it there. But you can look at your state and say, okay, what is the percent change in home price over the last 5 years in the state that we're in? I'm in Virginia right now, 55%. You look at California, 46%, I think is that. Texas, 50%. You can go and look at your state and say, okay, look, in the state that we're in over the last 5 years, this has been the average price appreciation here. If you look at the last 30 years, going all the way back to 1991, 326%. You see across the map there the different levels of price growth by state, and some states seeing a little bit more than others. But bottom line is homes appreciate over time. We always say it's not timing the market, it's time in the market, and that certainly is true, and all of that equals equity. I mentioned $5,700 being the national average over the last year, but you see here by state, many states, you see in that sort of that light blue color there, to $15,000 in price appreciation, equity appreciation. You see some states showing up now with equity depreciation as well. But I'll tell you an interesting thing. I got a text the other day on a group text that I'm in, and somebody said, hey, I just heard that around 40% of people in this country own their home free and clear. Is that true? And I said, it absolutely is true. And I responded with this graphic right here. The green portion is those in this country that own their home free and clear, 39.3. We can call that almost 40%, the text that I mentioned there. The blue area, mortgage homes with greater than 50% equity, 29%. That total there, 68.3% of the homes in this country are either paid off or what's considered equity rich, meaning they have at least 50% equity in their home. And that's amazing, right? Great for homeowners. Anybody that bought a home over the last, several years is certainly benefiting from that. Anybody that bought a home over the last 10, 20, 30 years is benefiting from that. It is the advantage to owning a home. Back in 2008, many people were wondering, is home ownership still the American dream? And I think we can look at it today and say, it is the American dream. Everybody needs a place to live. And in the fact that you can accumulate equity through owning a home is a very, very good thing for those that, will put that equity to work. They'll send a kid to college or maybe start a business or all the things that we know that people do with the equity in their homes. But the reality is, and this came from Redfin, they said 2025 will be a renter's market. And there's certainly truth to that. There will be people that need to rent. I'm not suggesting everybody should buy a home, but they say most Americans will remain renters or become renters while the cost of buying a home will increase, rental affordability will improve. We expect the median U.S. asking rent to remain flat year over year in 2025. There will also be more new rental units coming onto the market. I don't know where you're at, but certainly here in Richmond, Virginia, I mentioned, you see a lot of apartments going up, and there are new rental units coming in. It seems like every day, right? We are all in the business of real estate and want to see people own homes and own their own home, because the truth is anybody that lives indoors pays a mortgage. The question is, are you paying it for yourself? Are you paying it for your landlord? And typically, even though they're saying, hey, it's going to be flat year over year, rents increase. This is a look going all the way back to 1988 quarterly, showing median rent in this country growing each quarter, right? And I think that's typically what we've seen. And we're at a time right now where a lot of people are going, should I buy, should I rent? Probably one of the best text or engagement strategies for anybody renting is, hey, if your lease is coming up this year, and oh, by the way, it's February, that'll cover the majority of the people. Let's talk about what it takes to buy a home right now. Let's talk about where you're at and what your plans are. Because renting, if you're going to be somewhere and this is, it's right for you and you can afford it, it's a great time to look at owning a home. I always say, if you could go back 10 years from now and buy a home, would you do it? Most people say, I would. How many can we get? That's the bottom line. And the question is, why would you think it would be any different 10 years into the future? So getting that word out among renters, I think, is critically important. But a lot of people don't make that decision for a number of different reasons. But Homebuyer Insight Report said many prospective homebuyers fear that the long-term consequences of renting could include feeling like they're not making long-term investment in their future. So if I'm renting, I'm not doing that. 72% who worry that rent increases could affect their current and long-term finances. There's no doubt that many people get caught in that, and we want to help them achieve the dream of home ownership. If they're ready. A Gallup poll, we've talked about this before, Americans overwhelmingly have voted that real estate is their choice for the best long-term investment. More than stocks or gold or savings accounts, all the things listed there, they say buying a home, owning real estate is the best option for a long-term investment. I think as we think about buyers, we think about sellers, we think about, those that maybe are renting right now, there is opportunity to engage people on this market. And it's going to take that in 2025 to keep momentum going, to start momentum. And here's a sort of an idea. These conversations will turn into contracts. They ultimately, conversations turn into conversions, which ultimately turn into contracts. But I think the more productive conversations you're having, it's going to turn into contracts out there. I was talking to an agent yesterday that was popping by past clients to give them something here in February. It's a Valentine's little thing, but it gave that person the opportunity to engage with people to say, oh, what's going on with your house here? Oh, maybe you're outgrowing this, or somebody, your child or a relative or somebody's thinking about moving. All of these conversations turn into contracts. My hope is that you can take what we talk about in 2025 and certainly through the monthly market report and use that to start conversations. Maybe it starts as a social media post. Maybe it starts as an email. Maybe it starts as an interaction like we just talked about. But those conversations will equal contracts. I want to leave you with two things before I wrap up. On a NerdWallet study that I think is very, very encouraging. NerdWallet said this: many Americans are discouraged with the housing market, according to NerdWallet's 2025 homebuyer report, the ninth of its kind. Still, an ambitious share of Americans are ushering in the new year with optimistic plans to buy a home. And that comes out of this study, and they asked the question, how many people hope to buy a home in the next 12 months? 2025, you see it there, 15% higher than 24, 23, 22, 21, 2020, all covered right there. You see it visually. So there are people out there that say, I want to buy a home. There are people out there that say, I want to buy and I don't know how. And I think that's where we can step into the picture and help them as the knowledge broker, as the expert in our market. So I hope you'll take all of this with the monthly market report, use it to be the educated agent in your market. I think this is the market where people want to know, do you know what is happening? Can you lead me forward, my family, whatever the case is, in making a wise decision about buying a home? My hope is all of this information equips you to do that and that you'll be successful in it. We'll see you back next month. Take care.